just to reply to Deputy Kelleher, what should have happened? What should have happened is it should have been dealt with long ago, and it would have given us a degree of space in relation to this. There is no 13 years. There is no. In the 2 years, just to reply to Deputy O'Callaghan, in the 2 years that we have been looking at this, and I would suggest that it's about 18 months that we've been looking about it intently, we have come up with practically every possible configuration that you could think of in terms of how we could, for instance, allow the 4,700 people to retain the money and cut it off and just allow those to happen. We were told that's illegal, that can't happen. We then asked, could you possibly redesign the scheme in order to make it fit for purpose in terms of the individual and their needs? And we were told that that's illegal for the simple reason that because of the Disability Act, that the definition of disability is very broad. And so therefore you couldn't possibly say that only that category of people can have it in terms of their disability, and the other people who equally qualify under the Disability Act cannot have it. So this is not something this government wanted to do. I mean, take my word for it. If we could have found a solution to this, we would have found it. It wasn't for the want of looking. We have looked, and we have come up with virtually every possible configuration that you could imagine, and it hasn't been possible to do it. And we are very aware of the hardship and the fear that this will bring with it, very aware of it. And that's why we are determined to come up with a solution. We are determined to come up with a solution. And we are not just now putting the review group in place. The review group is in place for the last 2 weeks. We sat before the Committee on Oversight and Petitions 2 weeks ago, and we laid it out very clearly to anyone who wished to listen exactly what our difficulties were. So a bolt out of the blue it isn't for anyone who wished to listen. The difficulty we have, that if we are to comply with the Equal Status Act, and I don't think that there's anyone in here that would say to us that we need to change the Equal Status Act because that would bring with it unintended consequences. Equally, I don't think there's anyone in here that would wish us to narrow the terms in the Disability Act. I don't believe there's anyone in here who would expect us to do that or would wish us to do it. But the difficulty is that the broadness of the disability definition in the Disability Act, and then you have the Equal Status Act, tells us that if we were to allow everyone that would qualify now under these new terms for this particular scheme, then it would cost in the region of 170 to 300 million. And we simply do not have that type of money. We simply don't have that type of money. If we are to find that type of money, and I understand the argument, why wouldn't you find the money? We have a particular budget, and we have to ensure that the services that we need to deliver today in terms of health to people with disabilities as well, that has to be protected as well. But we are looking. This is not something that we've given up on. We are looking, and we are going to find a solution to this. We are going to find a solution to it. Well, what we have time-framed, Deputy, is that we have asked a review group, and it's a very wide-ranging review group, people that have a specific interest in transport for people with disabilities. But you see, the difficulty is that if you limit it to that, this is our difficulty now, that if we say that we are going to devise a transport scheme for people with disabilities, and then you define the disability, then you are going to be asked, what about the rest of the people? And then the Equal Status Act comes into play. It is quite complex. So the people that we have on the committee have a particular interest in transport for people with disability, a particular interest. But they are as convinced as we are that what we now need to do is divide a transport scheme for all. And very much at the front of our minds in relation to that is rural transport, I don't go with the sort of cliches of we should take this as an opportunity. But I think that the only way we can look at it is to devise a transport scheme that will serve us better into the future, that does not take away, and neither is very conscious of the fact that there are people who depend on this allowance, and providing a transport scheme will not alleviate that hardship. We are looking at all aspects of it, Deputy, all aspects of it. This was an issue, take my word for it, if there was possible to find a solution to this, we would have found it. We would have found it. And it is not something that this government wanted to do. It is not something. We have agonised, as Deputy Kelleher rightly says, we have agonised over this. We have agonised. And we will continue to be completely engaged to ensure that we find a solution. We're asking the review committee to come back within 3 months. We're not starting from a blank page. We have, if you were to map what is available in terms of transport in this country, if you were to map it, our difficulty is that we don't map anything. And if you were to map what is available in terms of transport in this country, between the school transport scheme, rural transport, as limited as it is, organisations such as the Irish Wheelchair Association, who have their own cohort of transport, fantastic, all of that. If you were to map it, we should be able to provide a transport service for everyone. Everyone. Doesn't take away from the hardship that will be imposed on people in terms of the income, and we're very conscious of that.